Hey everyone, random video Friday time. So out of nowhere, I'm just dropping a random review of Black Mirror Season 6 because I watched the whole thing last night. Now, if you're unfamiliar with it, Black Mirror is basically a British ripoff of The Twilight Zone with really only one major difference in that none of the stories have thus far been about aliens, and almost every story therefore comes down to relatively the same twist, in that the end, the moral of the story is technology is bad, technology will cause a dystopia, an Armageddon, or otherwise a life on hell scenario. Now, this has basically been the case for the first 5 seasons of Black Mirror, but in kind of an interesting twist, 2 of the episodes of this new season finally break that combo and officially depart Black Mirror from this kind of formula it had going on into just turning it into a general horror movie anthology with a bunch of basic horror movie cliches, and they throw away the technology is bad angle for your usual, oh no, the devil, or oh no, werewolves, or oh no, shinigamis. Anyway, because of this, apparently this is just the result of the show's creator, Charlie Booker, running out of technology is bad stories to put together into a horror movie format. So now he's just pivoting to literally doing the Twilight Zone. So the show that everyone always said was a little bit too much like the Twilight Zone has now full on started to turn into the Twilight Zone. To boil it down, the only main difference between Black Mirror and the Twilight Zone is that in Black Mirror, a person's life will ultimately be destroyed because technology is bad, whereas in the Twilight Zone, a person's life might be destroyed by technology, or God, or Satan, or aliens, or just because the plot wants people to suffer, and that's what's entertaining about the Twilight Zone, people suffering. And so yes, in this season, at least 2 of the episodes bring out the old Twilight Zone cause and effects of they just did this because of the devil or whatever. They haven't gone to God, they haven't gone to aliens, but doing this really causes Black Mirror to lose the only thing special it had going for it. And therefore, officially, Black Mirror is now starting to turn into a Twilight Zone ripoff, just running out of ideas. Now, if you've never seen Black Mirror, I will specifically call out the episode Nosedive as my personal favorite episode, and I think the best episode of the show. This episode stars the world's hottest redhead, Bryce Dallas Howard, having gotten her life destroyed in a sequence of 5 days because in this episode, the United States has out of nowhere adopted China's social media punishment system. And it's basically what if a country with white people was as cruel as China is. But I asked to give this my personal recommendation because this is just a perfect episode. It satirizes something going on now that's literally happening right now in China and points out how fucked up it is. I will have to say that one thing that differentiates Black Mirror from the Twilight Zone is that Black Mirror, especially in its best episodes, turns into kind of this targeted analysis takedown that horrible people exist in this world, and it becomes just kind of a showcase of the most horrible people and how they're getting away with the most horrible stuff, and how in the future they could become even more horrible. Don't get me wrong, the Twilight Zone definitely did this at least once. I can specifically think of that one episode where they were super targeted against Nazis who were not prosecuted for crimes after World War II. But yeah, anyway, Black Mirror does this way more frequently than the Twilight Zone ever did. Now with that out of the way, let's actually break down Season 6, which this time around is actually pretty heavy-handed with the takedown episodes. Now see, in previous Black Mirror seasons, there would be maybe 1, maybe 2 takedown episodes, but this time Season 6 only has 5 episodes, and of those 5 episodes, 3 of those are super specific takedowns of specific people or specific concepts, which makes me feel like over half the season this time around was takedown episodes, but only because the season has so few episodes. So let's start off Season 6 with probably its most straightforward episode. Joan is awful, ironically set in a not too distant future, and the future it's set in turned out to be July. So in this future, Netflix uses AI to create instant TV shows, and in this case, the AI creates a TV show that is a dramatization of this random woman named Joan who sold her life to Netflix, and then now everyone with Netflix can see a dramatization of her life and make fun of her because she's awful. It's some really grim dystopian shit, and what makes it even grimmer is that the fact is that Season 6 came out like a month ago. It dropped on June 15th. And literally in the 6 weeks from June 15th to now, this happened. The AI that this episode warns you about, it just became a real thing this week. Officially last Wednesday, an application called Showrunner AI was released on the Unsuspecting World, and this AI can create very shitty AI-generated versions of TV show. They showed its power by creating an AI-generated version of South Park, and I hope to God South Park sues these people, but this really is some genie out of the bottle shit technology as it stands, because supposedly they can use the same technology and just keep developing it farther. They can AI generate new episodes of any sitcom ever created about anything, like any sitcom ever. Like, you want The Big Bang Theory, they can make new episodes of that. You want I Love Lucy, they can make new episodes of that. You want I Love Lucy to do a porno, they can make new episodes of that too. It doesn't fucking matter. But still, this episode came out 6 weeks ago, and now it's happened. It took 6 weeks for this to go from a worst case scenario sci-fi drama to friggin' real life, and that has got to be a scary world record. Anyway, so back to the episode. Predictably, after Netflix does this, Joan's life just gets destroyed by the shit because everyone makes fun of her. She loses her job. Then there's some ship in a bottling going on because the episode is actually like the first generation of the AI, and then it like plays out that there's actually like 4 different alternate reality versions of the same story playing out because the AI is like replicating itself on different levels, and you're seeing the additional levels, which makes the show even weirder because like you're seeing like level 2, but there's also a level 3 and a level 4, and then it turns out that yeah, actually we've been watching level 2 the entire time, and there's actually a level 1 that was the source of all this like drama that we're seeing in the first place. But yeah, backing up from all that, yeah, this episode is just a takedown of a bunch of different people. It's a takedown of the TV studios using unethical AI, which is what they said they were going to do. And actually, this has already happened. Like, not even a month ago, the Flash movie came out, and that movie used illegal stock footage of actor Teddy Sears from the Flash TV show. And then when everyone was like, why is Teddy Sears in this movie? The studio just said AI. On top of that, like, the showrunner AI creates TV shows, like, that is being like satired in this, but that wasn't real when this came out, and now it is, so that's a major mindfuck. And on top of that, this entire episode can be loosely interpreted as a satire on the currently occurring SAG actors strike, which, you know, the SAG people are very worried that the studios are just going to make AI versions of them and make the AI versions of them do shitty, unethical things that they don't approve of. So that really makes this episode the most socially relevant episode of the bunch. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to episode 2, Loch Henry. So yeah, if you haven't been watching Black Mirror is an intensely British show, or at least it started out that way. See, the first 2 seasons were very, very, very British, to the point it was so British it was corny. But then Netflix took over producing it in the 3rd season. They gave them a much bigger budget. They gave them Hollywood movie stars. And when that happened, it really lost a lot of its original low-budget British horror flavor. And this episode seems like it's a weird and very poignant attempt to get back to that, because this episode is British as fuck, it's low budget as fuck, and it seems very much like it's a season 1 Black Mirror episode. Now, it's hard to put a finger on this one without spoiling it, but I will say that it's just like a British psychological thriller with like some mild Blair Witch Project vibes. But then it comes back to this like really sad and like dramatic ending in the end that's like kind of ironic and kind of cool in like all the ways I appreciate as a filmmaker. I have some pretty mixed feelings about this one because it wasn't just as grand as the others, but it seemed like it was a back to basics, like back to the roots sort of episode, and I was honestly impressed with that. Like, it was very emotional, impressive, and it just left me with this overall feeling of like, oh hey, it's classic Black Mirror, and that impressed me. Moving on to episode 3. Now, episode 3, I hated this one. This one was incredibly long. It's called Beyond the Sea, based on the old song, and it was a bizarre episode. Like, the more I think about this episode, the more I hate it. I kind of found it interesting while I was watching it and waiting to see what the twist was, but now, after the fact that I know what it's about, I just don't like it. So this is a sci-fi story set in an alternate retro future where it's 1969, but like America has like space bases, and it's like very in line with like 60s Ultraman or like where Hollywood sci-fi was at the time. So it's about these two astronauts. One is played by Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, and the other one is played by Josh Hartnett. And I just gotta ruin it for you guys. This one is all about Roman Polanski. It's a massive, pointed takedown of Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski famously committed crimes after his wife and son were slaughtered like pigs by the Charlie Manson family. And so that is actually featured in this episode, and it's featured in a super gross way because like you see Charlie Manson like killing his kids. But anyway, so Josh Hartnett is just playing Roman Polanski, and this is just a stupid morality play about Roman Polanski in space. Like, to sum it all up, this one is just, what if Roman Polanski eventually started murdering people? But in space! And if you think that sounds dumb, it was even dumber when you saw it. So, let's move on to the next episode. The next episode, the next episode has a stupid name. I forgot it already. It was like Tay Zonday or something. I don't know. But yeah, so the next episode officially is even dumber than the last one, but it's funny dumb. It's like entertaining dumb. Like, the next episode is one of the first ones that officially abandons the classic Black Mirror technology as bad format for some dumber old school horror movie concepts. And I'll just boil this one down. This one is officially another hyped up British horror movie, but this one is about Princess Diana, and it's about what if Princess Diana was a werewolf. And it is some ultra stupid, ultra cringe shit, but it's kind of funny. It's a little bit funny. Like, if they had called this one The Curse of the Were-Diana or The Night of Princess Die Hard, like something like stupid like that, like, I would have found this one a full comedy and I would have loved it. Now, it stinks, but it is still funny in a way that I can kind of laugh at it. Like, so it's not 100% about Princess Diana. They like swapped her out with more of a Lindsay Lohan drug-addicted actress gone bad type. But again, this one is just literally the story of what if Princess Diana was a werewolf. And the outcome here is that if Princess Diana was a werewolf, instead of eventually being killed by overzealous paparazzi, she would just fucking wolfed out and feasted upon their corpses. So it turns out to be like this fucked up revenge fantasy porn about werewolves. Anyway, it ends up being pure garbage, but it's at least fun garbage. It's like grindhouse garbage. If you're into garbage horror movies, this one's actually pretty enjoyable. So, speaking of garbage horror movies, that brings us to Demon 79, which is the last episode of the season. So, this episode is actually not a Black Mirror episode. It's the first Red Mirror episode, which is a new thing. It means that they've officially abandoned the format of Black Mirror, and they've officially just gone into just being a pure Twilight Zone ripoff with this episode. Now, this one is basically a horror movie about this Indian girl who lives in England, and she has a normal boring life until one day she meets this demon from hell who tells her to murder people. Now, I found this one to be incredibly boring, and I kind of zonked out in the middle of this one. I think I fell asleep. And at first I thought what was going on was like a shittier version of Death Note. I thought just like the demon had showed up like Ryuk, and he was trying to get her to murder people to like grant her a wish or something. Or then I thought like the demon was like forcing her to kill or be killed. But actually what apparently had happened was the demon had told her there was an apocalypse, and the only way she could prevent it was that if she killed 3 people, the demon would like undo the apocalypse. And also, by the way, the apocalypse is caused by fascists, which, you know, I gotta respect the constant anti-fascist vibe in England, like Spider-Punk and all that. Like, since they took like serious damage from the Nazis in World War II, like they know how bad fascists are, and there's like underlying fear in England that like fascists are like the bane of all evil. But yeah, otherwise, like the only thing like I can say was good about this episode was that it was lightly themed around the 1970s disco band Boney M, who famously did the song Rah Rah Rasputin. Now listen, I've never heard of this song before, but like 3 different times this year I've been watching like shit from England and they've referenced this song. So this is the 3rd time the song has been brought up to me through like media this year, and now I'm semi-convinced that this random disco song from 1979 is out of nowhere the most popular song in London, England right now. So yeah, we'll say the music of this episode was like perfect. They use the music of the band throughout the episode, and it sets like a really excellent tone for the piece. But I'm completely torn on this one because the script is dumb, the plot is dumb. The only thing I like about it is it has a lot of style, and I can respect the style. I also like the lead actress. I think she's cute for like an Indian actress, and the guy playing the disco demon was also pretty like funky and cool. But yeah, this one just feels like this bad, incomplete horror movie where they did like everything right, except the script was way too dumb and nonsensical. Like, geez, like if you tone out the dumb script, it's at least got like a nice disco soundtrack going on, like while you work, but then there's like the murder. So yeah, anyway, that was Black Mirror season 6. 3 hyper-targeted takedown episodes. Take down a showrunner AI, Hollywood, Roman Polanski, and the paparazzi that killed Princess Diana. Now, if you kind of like take a step back, I mean, I guess that like all kind of says that like Hollywood and like people who make films are evil. Oh, actually, come to think of it, Loch Henry was also about filmmakers. So yeah, aside from the Red Mirror episode, like all these episodes do have a common theme together, that filmmakers are the worst people in the world. But I think at least Joan is Awful is kind of required viewing because with the Hollywood strike going on, that does make this one like relatable. The other episodes you can pretty much skip, but I will say Loch Henry was probably the most surprisingly enjoyable one of the bunch. The rest of them were decent enough for their grindhouse movie qualities in their own right, but yeah, I definitely hated the Roman Polanski in space episode, and the Night of the Were Diana was at least kind of funny, but also incredibly stupid. And yeah, Demon 79, that one definitely turned me off the most, because with the pivot into being a Red Mirror episode, it just didn't have that cleverness that Black Mirror episodes usually have, and that cleverness like leaves me with this like really good, satisfied feeling. And this one is the first one ever that didn't give me that. It just was average. It was stylish, but it was just average horror. So like, this episode is apparently a backdoor pilot for a Red Mirror horror anthology show that they apparently want to make because they're just running out of ideas from Black Mirror. And I think they probably should just like left it on its own and like given it out that way, because Red Mirror can be a stylish show, but it is not Black Mirror. It's just not as good. And throwing it in with the rest of the Black Mirror episodes seems like a bagel in a box of donuts, because you have these delicious donuts, they're all sweet and wonderful, and then you got this bagel. It's similar, but it's not the same in a number of very, very important ways. And also it throws off the whole presentation because it's just not as colorful. Anyway, I guess let me know if you guys watched Black Mirror Season 6, and if you did you enjoy it? If this video gets enough views, I'll consider reviewing the other previous seasons just for the hell of it, because hey, maybe that's popular nowadays. Alright, thanks, good night.